Canada's transportation infrastructure is the backbone of our economy, connecting communities and driving trade in a rapidly changing global marketplace. Today, we explore the federal priorities, investments, and partnerships required to build a more resilient and competitive nation. I'd like to start us off in a good way by acknowledging that we are on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Kwantlen, Katsi, Coquitlam, Kakite, Semiahmoo, and Tsawwassen First Nations. Now, today's event would not be possible without the support of our sponsors. Now, for those of you who do not know how we like to thank our sponsors, you're in for a treat. It is called the one clap method. You hear that little murmur? Everybody's like, I'm ready. It's fun. So you have to put down your silverware for just a few minutes. And when I say the name, the category, and the name of the sponsor, you do one clap in unison. You got it. So, are we ready? All right, our presenting sponsors, Vancouver Fraser Port Authority. Oh, you're already on it, okay. And YVR. Very good. Thank you to both Peter Exotta and Mike and Mike McNaney from YVR for being here. I fooled you. That was my bad. Our supporting sponsor, BC Maritime Employers Association. Okay, you guys are getting a little lazy now. We just started. Okay, our community sponsor is Civic Hotel, exactly where we are, and our pillar partners, Focus College, and the Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance Plan by SNF Group Benefits. Okay, I think I wanted to be a conductor in my past life. Now, please help me welcome some special guests in the audience, and we have a lot of them, and they have very long titles, so this will be extra tricky for you. So, we have Canada's Minister of Transport, the Honourable Steven MacKinnon. You knew that one, though. Canada's Minister of Veterans Affairs and Associate Minister of National Defence and MP for Delta, the Honourable Jill McKnight. Jill, I think you get the reward for longest title. Secretary of State for International Development and MP for Surrey Centre, Randeep Sarai. MP for Surrey Newton, Suk Dhaliwal. MP for Richmond East Steveston, Parm Baines. BC's Minister of Transportation and Transit, MLA for Port Coquitlam, Mike Farnworth. Parliamentary Secretary for Surrey Infrastructure and MLA for Surrey Guildford, Gary Begg. City of Surrey Mayor, Her Worship Brenda Locke. And City of Surrey Councillor Mike Bose. We also have from the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office, Vancouver is Director General Angel Liu. You didn't even clap right for yourself, Angel. You got it. There we go. And a very special person I want to announce today happens to be having a birthday. And that is MP Ernie Klassen, Parliamentary Secretary for Fisheries. And I believe we have a little treat for Ernie right here. Ooh, look at this, Ernie. Happy birthday. Yeah, that's quite the dessert. Everyone at his table is excited. They want to get a fork. Okay. We also have our board of directors in the audience. A few of them took time out of their day to be here, and these are fantastic volunteers that take care of governance of our organization. We have Gurdeep Sahota from Royal LePage Global Force Realty. And Lee Gong, Van Casa Building Supplies Corporation. Sasha Ramnarine, Remedios Lawyers Law Corporation. And Gurjinder Burji, Signature Real Estate. And Mike Speece, Ashdown Capital. Okay, we're getting it. Very good. And we also have our board governors. These are former board chairs, so very amazing volunteers who've really given a lot of their time. We have Mr. James Stewart, Steve Dooley, and I think, is Bruce Hain here? Well, let's say Bruce Hain. I don't have a check mark here. Okay, but I do have a check mark next to our fellow Chamberland colleague, President of the Cloverdale District Chamber of Commerce, Jen Temple. And just because it's so close to the rodeo, I have to say, Rodeo Queen, Jen is personally responsible for the success of the Cloverdale Rodeo with her team. Yes, let's give her a round of applause. She deserves it. So for those of you that don't know us well, the Surrey and White Rock Board of Trade is an independent, nonprofit organization and serves as the concierge of connections for our business communities of Surrey and White Rock, delivering a diversified service portfolio of business development, support for international trade, government advocacy, and workforce development. We help businesses grow and succeed. We connect people, offer vital resources, and actively push for policies that ensure Surrey and White Rock continue to be the leading cities to live, work, and invest in. We are proud to be a powerful, unifying voice for businesses of all sizes and sectors across the region. Now, please help me welcome our first speaker today. Mike McNaney is the Vice President and Chief External Affairs Officer at Vancouver International Airport to introduce our keynote speaker this afternoon. Mike, over to you.
Yeah, I couldn't help but notice, but Peter got a clap, but I got nothing. It's too late. It's too late. Perhaps if Tamara had been here, it would have been different, but in any case. Good afternoon, bonjour. Je suis Mike McNaney de l'Aéroport international de Vancouver. Je suis très heureux d'être ici aujourd'hui. I'm very pleased to be here in collaboration with our Greater Vancouver Gateway colleagues at the Port of Vancouver, who had a small announcement you may have heard this morning, to welcome Minister Steve MacKinnon back to British Columbia and to the Board of Trade. I know that here in Surrey, just like many U.S. border-adjacent communities across the country, businesses are keenly aware of the drastic trade shifts happening all around us. At YVR, we exist to serve our community and the economy that supports it, and we're working very hard to meet the moment. In addition to being Canada's second busiest airport, moving a record 27 million passengers, and a record 35 billion in time-sensitive high-value cargo, we are also a major economic driver, contributing 16 billion per year in GDP and supporting more than 130,000 jobs across the country. Our President and CEO, Tamara Vrooman, announced in the spring a commitment to double our air cargo volumes over the next 5 years, with a particular focus on Asia, Indo-Pacific destinations, as well as South America. That effort will provide significant opportunities for many of the businesses and organizations in the room here today. It will mean new air connectivity and routes, more opportunity to get your Canadian-produced goods and services to global markets, more opportunity for Surrey, BC, and for Canada. And we're looking forward to engaging with all of you on these efforts in the months ahead. Now that I have finished my YVR commercial, je suis très heureux de présenter le ministre. Steven MacKinnon is Canada's Minister of Transport and leader of the government in the House of Commons. He is the Member of Parliament for Gatineau, Quebec, and was first elected to Parliament in 2015. Prior to entering politics, he was a Senior Vice President at a global public affairs consultancy. He has previously served as Minister of Labour and Seniors, Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Labour, I think that's actually the longest title, as well as Minister of Jobs and Families. Please join me in welcoming to the stage the Honourable Steven MacKinnon.
Thank you, Mike. And I have decided to come up here without a net. I had a speech prepared, but I'm going to just, we're going straight to questions. I'm going to give you a brief little remarks and hopefully then deal with stuff that's relevant to everyone here. But just let me tell you how proud I am to be at the Surrey and White Rock Board of Trade. And I appreciate, Jocelyn, the invitation. Mike, thank you for the introduction. Your Worship, Mr. Farnworth, it's great to be in your province and your city. And to my colleagues, it's great to be with you again, and such an honor to be in front of you all today. So I want to talk about the moment we're in. I want to talk about British Columbia's role in helping us get through this moment that we're in, and hopefully leave you with a lot of cause for optimism about the future, about your families, about our economic prosperity. The moment we're in is a difficult one. You see wildfires raging. That obviously could be in British Columbia. Right now it happens to be principally in Northern Ontario, and we obviously send our thoughts and hopes for the people there who are affected, and British Columbia knows all too well the perils associated with climate change and with major climate events. So we have that to deal with. We have wars in the Middle East, in Europe, and the security imperatives that imposes on our country. We have a trade war you talked about how close we are to the U.S. border. That obviously applies to a lot of our country. And it affects us in many ways. It affects us almost spiritually, this relationship that we have had with our American friends, cousins, allies over the years. And dealing with that is an exercise in incredible national resolve. So no shortage of challenges. But let me tell you how we're dealing with that. We are going to be improving our nation's defense and our security arrangements. We've invested, the Prime Minister today, another example of how we're investing in our military and security capabilities. That will include significant investments in our north, in the Arctic, and in our resiliency and ability to help communities prosper in northern Canada, but also in our ability to patrol and secure our northern border, which is on the Arctic Ocean. So security, big challenge and one that lies ahead. Negotiating trade arrangements. You see our Prime Minister and ministers, Randeep included, travel the world to build partnerships and resiliency with nations in the Indo-Pacific, in Europe, in Africa, in the Middle East, and elsewhere. And we are succeeding with billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars of investment commitments, and new trading arrangements all over the world. The Prime Minister has given us an aggressive goal of doubling our non-US trade in the next 10 years, and we will meet that objective. And finally, we have to deal with this trade war. Those negotiations, sporadic, let's agree. Those negotiations are difficult. Those negotiations will take time. Canada will take time to sign the right deal for Canada, not just any deal, and a deal that does our nation proud and secures our future and secures the future of that obviously pivotal relationship. So we have all of that, and that's a lot for our government to take on. We have good provincial partners in the BC government. We have great municipal partners. That doesn't mean that there aren't challenges and there aren't needs and there aren't things that need to be addressed, but it has been, I think, and should be heartening to everyone here to know that I've never seen such unity of purpose among elected representatives in this country across parties in my long period in politics. And we should be happy about that. When we saw the Prime Minister, and this is where I hone in on British Columbia, and Premier Eby make an historic agreement, a prosperity agreement, an economic agreement that will, in my view, guarantee the prosperity and a future for your children and my children for years and generations to come. How are we doing that? We're doing that by sensible, world-leading investments in liquefied natural gas. Now remember that every one of those ships that comes in, and this is the world's cleanest possible natural gas, every one of those ships comes in has a tangible material impact on our nation's GDP. It also represents workers, people who get this gas out of the ground, ship it, get it to an export facility, get it on a vessel, do all of the administrative work attendant in all of that. This is a major industry that didn't exist just years ago in British Columbia and will continue. There are projects, you know them all, and these are very real and very tangible accomplishments. We have the Northeast Energy Corridor. Did I say that right, Mike? Northwest, I'm sorry, yes. I'm from the east, so I tilt that way, I apologize. Clean energy, access to critical minerals, Indigenous participation, and organizing the development of a remote but critically vital and important piece of real estate in this province. And the provincial and federal governments have agreed on a path forward for development. But what about the Lower Mainland? Well, the Massey Tunnel. That's a project that has been talked about for a long, long time, right, Jill? Jill McKnight, she has said the word Massey in my ear so many times. I just see her and I call her Massey. Yeah. This is an intractable problem, and one that I know the provincial government has struggled with over the years, but the federal government has decided to be a partner and move forward on that issue. But the big one I want to talk about today is what we just announced this morning, and that is the port and its projects for expansion and its future. Now, Vancouver is in so many ways a port city. Tens of thousands of jobs rely on the work that goes on there every day, on the docks, in terms of the exporters, the manufacturers, the farmers, the shippers, the growers, the miners who rely on that port, and the people that handle the materials, that plan the logistics, that build the facilities, that load the ships, that unload the ships, that drive the trains, that coordinate all of this work. This is the core of the prosperity of the Lower Mainland. And in many ways, this is Canada's port. And we ask a lot of the people in this region to host this very big continuum of infrastructure that extends through all of those activities that I just described. And it has been intractable. It's been a difficult problem. Peter Jada was telling me that he was hired in the mid-90s to begin the work on expanding container capacity at Roberts Bank. And so when you talk about something that's been discussed over decades, you're talking about something that is very important, that a lot of people have had a lot to say about, but that we have to decide on. And today we decided to decide. And we will be moving ahead. We have one last step to go through, a very time-defined step, and we will list that project as a project of national importance. And it is a big project, 17,000 jobs, increases the container capacity of the Port of Vancouver by 50%. Now, when you consider that, these are numbers, I know, and it's hard to relate. But the Port of Vancouver is larger than the next 5 Canadian ports combined. So when you talk about expanding the capacity of the Port of Vancouver by 50%, you are talking about impacting daily the national wealth of Canada by incredible amounts. 17,000 jobs will be created. Maybe your children, maybe your children's children. These are assets that operate virtually in perpetuity and will contribute to the economy and the quality of life here, but perhaps more importantly, will help build a country. Will help. Yeah. This is essential work, friends. This is essential work for our country. If we are going to diversify our trade with countries other than the one to our south, you cannot plausibly do that without expanding the capacity of the Port of Vancouver. But that's not all. We also announced today that we will be moving forward on a gateway strategy. What does that mean? That means that we need to modernize and update port facilities, especially those that handle bulk materials, potash, grain, coal, other things that transit through this port at various times and to various levels. These are job creation machines. They create wealth at point of origin. They create wealth and prosperity here in the Lower Mainland. Rail, everyone knows, you better than me. Too many single points of failure, too much unreliability, sometimes too entangled, too much waiting time, too many bottlenecks in our rail network in this region. We need to sort that out. It's complicated. but we are determined to move forward on a strategy that gets our rail network humming in a high-performance port, and one that directly contributes to this region's, to this province's, and to this nation's wealth, and will do so for years to come. That's what we've decided today. So it all sounds like a lot of process, and there are a lot of people, of course, that have valid concerns about some aspect of this work. And all of those concerns need to be dealt with, and need to be dealt with fairly and systematically, and that obviously includes dialoguing and participation of First Nations. We are ensuring that goes forward as well. But this will, my friends, create jobs, a healthy economy, and when you combine it with all of the work that we're doing with our friends in the province of British Columbia, we are literally reinventing the economy of this province before our eyes. So if you're a mother in White Rock worried about your son's future, if you are someone who is considering what your career options may be, there are opportunities now being created as we speak in this province that contribute to building a strong country that will guarantee the future for the people who live here. And I speak as a member of Parliament from Quebec, who is incredibly energized by the ability to stand up here before you today and contribute in some small way to the futures of the people here in British Columbia. Because, my friends, we are engaged in a national project. We are up against some historic challenges. We are being tested, and we are going to succeed. We have the Prime Minister, we have the will, we have the government, we have the partnerships, and we have all of you. We have all of you who are so encouraging, who egg us on, who urge us to go just that little bit further, to take on that extra project, to, yes, in all ways, do it the Canadian way. Respect for our First Nations partners, respect for our natural environment and species at risk, and our quality of life as we know it in this province, which is so attached to nature. We're going to do it all the right way, but we are going to do it, and we are going to succeed. And I think we should all have cause for great optimism, not just because of what we announced today, but because we have so much that is good, so much that the world wants, and so much will and goodwill among all of us to get the job done. Donc, merci beaucoup. Et vive le Canada. Thank you. Which seat would you like me to?
Oh, look at this.
Thank you.
Oh, please, have a seat. Well, thank you, Minister MacKinnon. I don't think I've seen a standing applause here before.
I'm going to go back and tell my constituents, like, I got a standing O in Surrey.
This is how it goes out here. We're very friendly.
Come on, Gatineau, like, you know.
Well, I'm going to get us started with some questions, everyone, but we do have a microphone somewhere, or we will, for questions in the audience. For those of you that haven't been here before, you'll get up to the microphone, you'll introduce yourself, your organization, and then you'll ask one question. I do run a tight ship. I used to be a Taekwondo teacher, so don't test me. And we'll keep our questions brief, respectful, and I'll get us started, though. So, Minister, I like to start off all of our events by getting to know the person I'm speaking to a little bit better. And the question I like to ask is, what is your origin story? How did you become who you are today?
Well, I was born, I do represent Gatineau, Quebec, very proudly. I've lived there for 22 years, but I was born in Prince Edward Island. And when you're a Prince Edward Islander, one of the origin stories of being a Prince Edward Islander is you are from what we call the cradle of Confederation, where Canada was born. So Province House in Charlottetown, PEI, which is literally in the heart of the city, is where the Fathers of Confederation, and they were fathers. They had good mothers, undoubtedly, but they met to plan the arrangements for our country, and the rest is history. But it gives you a sense of national pride, obviously, national mission, and I have to think that that has something to do with my will to serve this country and my love for this country. Over the years, I've been fortunate enough to, and there are many people in the room who can testify to this, to serve my country in various capacities, and I've gotten to know the whole country. And to know this country is to love it. And to be tested, as I talked about, we are, gets my adrenaline and my motivation going, and you want to work with the incredible colleagues that I get to work with every day to make the country just a little bit better. And if you can make one part of the country just a little bit better, you get to know that every part of the country gets just a little bit better. And today we made British Columbia a little bit better.
Amazing. I love that. Well, we are pro-British Columbia here, so good audience.
As you should be.
So, the Minister, the government has described the Port of Vancouver Gateway strategy as transformational. Can you tell me, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. Great. Well, look, I think, I don't want to overstate this, but the Port of Vancouver is, in many respects, the ball game when it comes to our export diversification strategy. And our export diversification strategy is core to us being able to navigate our way through this uncertain relationship south of the border. And it's not an or, meaning we want to secure a good trading relationship with our American friends. But it is an and it's a must do. So, and this has been talked about for many years and decades. I remember Prime Minister Chrétien talking about this. But we have to get very, very serious about this now. But we are more equipped than ever to do that. I talked about energy. Look at the demand in Asia, not just for natural gas, but for natural gas liquids, propane. You know, you're seeing opportunity being created up and down this province that, again, materially adds to the wealth of the people who live here. You are seeing demand for potash, for the things that we produce, grain in this country, that will necessarily come through this part of the world and necessarily create value and opportunity for the people who live here. And the scope and scale of the Port of Vancouver is like an essential part of our national economy. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that. And we all think about things like AI, and these are things that cannot be displaced or replaced by AI. These are essential functions, essential jobs, and AI will not replace potash. AI will not replace natural gas. AI will not replace grain. And these are future guaranteeing investments. But, and this is a big but, and this is where Peter cringes a little bit. By the way, we had that single clap thing. Peter has had shoulder surgery, so he didn't do the single clap thing. I just want you to...
I saw him try.
Yeah.
I saw him try.
But we need this port to be better, too. We have I talked about the bottlenecks, the single points of failure, the, in some cases, aging infrastructure. We have to get better at that stuff. And the federal government, and I say this with my colleagues here, we need to get better about regulation, about being able to build quick fix, debottlenecking projects, about planning our transportation corridors such that we don't invest in facilities, we invest in systems. We think of this as Winnipeg to Vancouver, and where are the problems in that system? And so the port, in many ways, needs to think now of itself as the terminus of an economic chain that extends across the virtual entirety of this country. That's why nothing happens if this doesn't happen, if we don't get this right. So we have to, yes, improve the capacity of the port, and we talked about how we're going to do that with RBT2, but we have to improve the efficiency and the throughput of the port as well. And its importance is such as if we do that, again, the world is our oyster, so to speak, because the wealth and the prosperity it will generate is going to be just an incredible boom in this city.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, BC is, of course, Canada's gateway to the Indo-Pacific, which is, Peter said this morning and at the press conference, going to be taking over, really, when it comes to where we can do business and who we can do business with. So as Canada looks to double our non-U.S. exports, which, thank you, I've been saying the same thing since I took the helm here. What else needs to happen to ensure that our transportation infrastructure is keeping pace so that we can remain competitive with other jurisdictions around the world? Because Canada has had a competitiveness problem. So what else needs to happen?
That's a very good question. So if we can reduce the time it takes to move a container across Canada that lands in Vancouver, that's a productivity enhancing piece of work. If we can reduce the dwell time of a ship, that not only stops the phone calls into my office of people complaining about ships at anchor, but it helps improve the efficiency. It makes shippers choose Vancouver. And those are all productivity enhancing activities and accomplishments as well. So much of this is aimed at improving our national productivity. The movement of goods, the selection of our country and our facilities for these logistics is essential. If you want to get a container to Chicago, choose British Columbia. These are all additions, net additions to our national wealth. These are all net additions to our ability to generate the tax revenue and the jobs that will help us compete in the world. When we can add a market for natural gas in Asia, that is an incredibly large, net new piece of economic activity for Canada. That adds to our GDP, but it adds to our productivity as well, because we can do this very efficiently. And we can do this by including everyone in the ways that I talked about. We can do this with Indigenous participation in these facilities. We can do this with the world-leading environmental mitigations that are required for projects of this scale and scope. You saw, and I just want to underscore, we signed an agreement with Germany to do offtake of British Columbia natural gas. Not because they'll ultimately be getting British Columbia natural gas, but they will just buy a contract that allows the gas that's on the ocean to be transported or transferred to gas that's on the other ocean. And so BC is like indirectly shipping natural gas to Germany now. This is net new activity. This diversifies our trade. This enhances our productivity. It gets us off of our reliance on the US. We stop letting them get the discount on our natural resources that they have traditionally gotten. And it's all upside for this country. And if we can keep going and build clean energy and allow more First Nations into some of these projects and spread this wealth and opportunity across the economy here, again, it gives me real reason to be very, very optimistic for the future.
So let's go back to RBT2, Roberts Bank Terminal 2. It's been in the environment. This is probably the longest project anyone's ever talked about in this province. And everyone here knows it needed to happen 10 years ago. So I like the collaboration I'm seeing. I like the vision. but when will we actually get the go-ahead to finalize plans and build this thing?
Peter?
I think it's a you question,
Yeah, it is a me.
Minister. Peter wants to build it. He's ready.
So last year we passed a bill, the Building Canada Act, that will mean that Dominic LeBlanc, currently, the minister for that, who's designated under that bill, will become responsible for assessing the project, the remaining approvals that are required, doing that quickly, marshalling the entire government and getting us the last permits that we need to build. I'm hoping that we can be in the ground, in the water, or Peter, what's the right word?
Building the ground in
Yeah.
the water?
Building the ground in the water, in 2027. And this is, again, a mega project. In and of itself will create thousands and thousands of jobs. Has been talked about for decades. We have decided to decide. And we've decided that decades of talk, consultation, essential. Can I digress for a second?
Sure.
Everyone's familiar with Lac Mégantic.
Yes.
We had a train carrying bitumen blow up in a town in Quebec and cause death and destruction. It's 13 years later, almost to the day. We still haven't built the bypass that everyone knew needed to be built around that town the day after that unfortunate explosion. 13 years later, we've today gotten approval to build it. It is time to move.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's switch focus a little bit. When, we talk about supply chains, we talk about rail, and we talk about ports, but air is also an important part of cargo movement. Time-sensitive, delicate products need to move by air. So what is the federal government thinking when you're considering this whole holistic approach to the supply chain?
So when I talk about building facilities, air, that obviously applies to air, and it applies to everything that would be federally regulated. And hats off and thank you to the YVR folks who are here today for your work. And YVR is an incredible piece of infrastructure, and we're all very, very proud of it. And Mike, and through you to Tamara and all the folks who are here from YVR, thank you for your work. Second biggest airport in the country, major gateway to particularly the Indo-Pacific, and an essential piece of our infrastructure. Air cargo is a really important part of that mix. Air cargo serves an essential role in our supply chains, fresh food, medicines, other sensitive, time-sensitive type materials. We want to build our air cargo business across the country, whether it be at Pearson or at YVR or at any other major facility in the country. Also, Vancouver, increasingly critical to servicing our north. A lot of the flights to northern Canada originate here in Vancouver, so it's going to continue to play a big role in all of that. We have announced that we are looking at ownership options for our airports. We're going through that work systematically now, but we know that our airports play an essential part in our supply chains. That is particularly true in the case of YVR and its singular importance in this province. We're going to tread carefully. We're going to do it in collaboration with, I think that's why Tamara's not here today. She's having a meeting on this issue. Air is a critical and growing part of our supply chain infrastructure.
So I have to, put in the Surrey stats for you here because I'm pro-Surrey.
So am I.
Okay, good. All right. You hear
Sook
that,
is here, and
Marilyn?
Sook talks to me
Excellent.
about, and Randeep, we
They're excellent.
hear about these issues a lot.
Yes, they do a good job making sure. So Surrey will soon be the largest city population-wise, and we are already the largest.
Does Vancouver like that, by the way? Like, how does
They
that
don't
work?
like it.
Yeah.
No. They don't like it. But we're okay with it. We're okay with it here. We also have the youngest workforce. The new medical school coming to Surrey, the first one in over 60 years.
That's amazing.
It's going to be right out here. The mayor can see it from her office.
What an accomplishment.
It is a huge accomplishment. But the resiliency of the people here in Surrey is really demonstrated not only through their friendliness and openness, but through their innovation. We have a lot of tech, health tech in particular, agri-tech in this space. We have, of course, the youngest workforce coming up, going to the universities here. They're going to be making sure the rest of us can retire. So when you think about Surrey, and of course we have Thornton Yards, this is CN's last stop before the port. There are impacts to the communities outside of just where the port sits. Yep. So when you're considering all of these projects, how do your thoughts about the communities that are impacted by this work come to mind for you?
Yeah, well, I think I said in my remarks, we do ask a lot of residents of this region because these are very intrusive pieces of infrastructure, rail, ports, we occupy land along harbourfronts. Some of Canada's most valuable real estate is controlled by the Vancouver Fraser Port Authority. And we know that's a public trust. And we know that we have to give back to, or at least accommodate people. And so how do we do that? We do that by providing jobs and opportunity and investment and futures and potential for communities like this one. We have to do it in responding to major public demands in terms of transporting people, and that could be the Massey Tunnel infrastructure, it can be public transit, it can be building housing in sensible ways, in neighborhoods that are convenient and close to economic activity. So we have an obligation to invest in the communities that welcome and accommodate these major economic pieces of infrastructure like the port and like everything that is upstream from the port. I will say longer term that we need to think about how we move more of that activity away from the waterfront or even away from built up areas like this one and into more modern, more efficient triage, multimodal type facilities so we can lessen the burden, lessen the traffic, lessen the bottlenecks that are going into these ports all over the country, whether it be this one. But although this one is uniquely logistically tough, but I think as a general philosophy, we're going to want to try and better organize the material we ship through ports before it gets to ports. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we're very consciously working on too. And I talked about corridors very quickly, but that's part of that work.
I was just in China. Minister Farnworth was there as well. He was following me around. I don't know. Maybe it was the other way around. And I noticed that they had, sections of town just dedicated to certain sectors. There was the tile area and the automotive sector, and they're very organized. And so, that's something I think that we could improve upon. So this holistic view that I'm seeing happen, it gives me some comfort. But one of the challenges I think that we still have here in Canada is labor stability. So if we've got something like 20 to 25 different labor contracts that can come up for renewal at any point in Canada, and the shippers are seeing this happen, how do we handle this part of our competitiveness picture?
It's a problem, and it's a problem we have to deal with, that we are determined to deal with. The definition of the problem varies depending on who you talk to. We want to make it easier to get to agreements. The easiest way to not have labor disruptions is to get negotiated agreements at a bargaining table. And some things about the process at the federal level in the Canada Labor Code make that let's just say, are disincentives to getting a deal, or make it more difficult to get a deal. And so we're working, Patty Haidu and others are working very hard at identifying what those might be, working with labor, working with employers, so that we can make some improvements to the process that make getting to a deal more predictable, to use your word, more reliable. That'll be more satisfying for workers. It'll be more satisfying for employers. At the end of the day, we have to be able to reassure shippers, reassure people in the logistics business that Canada is a reliable place to do business. It is absolutely essential to an essential ingredient of making this port realize its full potential. And we're seized with that, so I think you will see some work on that emerge very early in the legislative session this fall.
I'm sure BCMEA would love to be a part of that conversation.
They are.
Okay, good. The microphone is available at the back of the room. If you guys want to go up, please do. I'll carry on until I see someone there. So, Minister, governments frequently announce major infrastructure strategies, but businesses are concerned about how long it takes. And certainly, we've seen it takes a long time to get these projects done. What firm milestones should the business community use to judge whether this strategy is advancing quickly enough?
So we passed C5. That's for major projects of national importance, projects of national significance. We want to move that philosophy down to all projects. So big and small. In the transport, in my portfolio, that can be a port facility, that could be an airport facility, that can be a spur line, an inland port, and all of those obstacles to getting federal permits to move, we want to reduce the time frame to that to 2 years and even 1 year for federal approvals. Now, you can't do that by snapping your fingers. It's hard work, it's detailed work, but it's essential work. And just like you can expect to see some developments on the labor front that we just discussed, you can expect to see some developments on this front this fall.
Okay, I like it. You heard it here, folks. The gentleman at the mic, please introduce yourself and ask your question.
Thank you, Chris Shields. To the Honourable Minister MacKinnon, I first want to thank you for being here today, and I appreciate the announcement. It's a major project that's pushing forward and bringing lots of jobs and a big investment in the future to BC. So thank you for that. You mentioned in your talk about the community in Quebec, I can't pronounce it, Lac Mégantic. Thank you. And the disaster that happened there, which was dreadful. So I'm from sunny, beautiful seaside White Rock, and we often worry about disasters. And Crescent Beach, which is part of Surrey, gets cut off. If there's a disaster, there's no way in or out of that community. So my question for you is, would there be any consideration to rerouting the rails from the waterfront in White Rock up through Highway 99, for example? And you also mentioned protecting the waterfronts of pristine waterfronts in Canada. So that's my question. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. That's a great question. And even though I'm from Atlantic Canada, I envy many of the places like the one you just described, which are,
White Rock Pier just got some federal
incredible.
funding, right?
Good job, you guys. I don't know where these guys get all the money.
We still want more. I am always asking for more.
So I'm going to give you maybe an unsatisfying answer to that question, unfortunately, however. When you think of Canada, go to any city, Winnipeg, Toronto, Edmonton. What is one of the defining features of those cities? They were built up around a railroad. And we have an incredible challenge in this country if we define a problem as we have to get trains out of this city, because we would be spending the rest of my life and our children's lives paying for what will ultimately be non-efficiency gaining investments in our economic infrastructure. So as much as these things, in some cases, including the one you describe, can be intrusive and in some cases even risky, we're going to have to grin and bear it. I'm just giving you the cold, hard response. Be easy to say, oh, we'll look at that and we'll get back to you. And maybe we will look at White Rock because we are going to do this planning exercise of how we make the rail system more efficient. So I don't know enough about the particular circumstance you describe, but I will say in general that it's very hard for us to re-engineer the entire country after it has built itself up around a rail line that goes a ribbon of darkness, as Gordon Lightfoot called it, across the country. So we're going to make the fixes where we can and where that makes sense to do so, and that may include some places in the Lower Mainland, will include some places in the Lower Mainland. But I can't make a specific commitment about White Rock. But I can guarantee that there are a whole bunch of MPs here that are single-mindedly devoted to getting more money into your community. That I can assure.
Look at them, they're staring him down right now. It might be good for folks to know it is mostly coal that runs on that line, and that's a BNSF line, technically. So we now have Director Angel Liu from the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office at the microphone.
Thank you, Minister, for being here. My question actually is for the airliner from Taiwan, EVA Airway and China Airline from Taiwan. They have been expressed their interest to, added more direct flight for passengers to, from Taipei to Toronto or Taipei to Vancouver. But it seems that Canada does not have an open sky policy, so they always fly to Seattle. So I wonder if there is any possibility for change of this policy to allow the airliners from Taiwan to fly to Canadian territory.
Can we get Air Canada have as many spots going to Taipei?
I think there need to be a discussion of negotiation.
See, you've just seen in real life what happens behind the scenes. The good news that I've been happily surprised with in Transport Canada is that more countries all over the world want to send more flights to Canada. That is an incredible piece of news, because that tells me there is more, that Canada has what the world wants. That's better tourism, better connections, more business, all of those things. That is great, and we are happy to engage what we call air transport agreements. I'm sure YVR would be very happy if we continued down that path. So we're all ears. Yep.
Perfect. And I'll be headed to Taiwan in August, so if we
hurry
up with that would be great. Okay, so since
Don't go to Seattle.
I do see a couple people.
Don't go to Seattle.
Okay, I won't. Last time I was in Washington State, I was at the Pacific Northwest Economic Region Conference, and I had to listen to the U.S. ambassador call Canada mean and nasty. So let's try to diversify and keep the conversation
You haven't been
going
mean
in
and
this
nasty
direction.
today.
Right? We're lovely. Okay, Judy, over to you. Remember to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Judy Higginbotham from South Surrey, White Rock area, and a past councillor of Surrey when we were trying to bring the right-of-way and make it into a passenger rail from Cloverdale into South Vancouver. We have the BC Hydro owns the right-of-way. From there probably is the room there to triple track if you really wanted to along that railroad. And one of the biggest challenges in putting railroads across Canada, and certainly in built areas, is finding rights-of-ways in areas that you can put the train in. If it's already there, then it's a little easier to build. So I think you better tuck that into your hat maybe and ask a question or two, because I think it is something that would be of value to look into. I'm sorry the mayor has left, because I would like her to have heard this question as well.
Well, Judy, I would like to pretend I know all that real estate that you're describing, but I don't know enough about it, but it has been duly noted. Thank you.
Up next.
And Farnworth owns BC Hydro, so you should like talk to him too. Yeah.
Hi, Allison Clavel with Urban Systems. Really pleased to hear about the investment in the port, and you talk about the Massey Tunnel replacement, which is obviously critical road infrastructure for us here in BC, and rail improvements that are much needed. What I didn't hear was about municipal needs. Municipalities, a huge amount of the region's GDP moves on municipal roads.
Yeah.
And our municipal friends have to move people on
See,
bikes
Farnworth's
and
leaving right now.
walking. Is there going to be opportunity for municipalities to seek out federal investment in the role they play in trade in the region?
Yeah, well, we do have a trade corridors program, and obviously municipalities are qualified applicants under that. As the transport minister, our money is designed specifically to help underpin a successful economy and our trade routes, so they have to be quite legitimately trade routes. If you see all the trucks in the Massey Tunnel, you'll see why that, kind of qualifies. But apart from that, we have a $51 billion infrastructure program that Gregor Robertson is in charge of, and that he will be negotiating with the province of British Columbia on. So even though Mike just left, we should point out that the province of British Columbia will have infrastructure money that will be co-managed with the federal government, and that could help improve municipal infrastructure like that you described.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
We're going to make everybody answer the questions.
You won't escape.
Okay. So let's talk for a minute about industrial land. So Surrey currently has the most industrial land of any municipality in the province. We know, right? It's pretty great. But the province needs more, and especially to create, make room for these projects. And so what are the conversations you're having about industrial land, and what is the thought process?
Well, most of the conversations I have are around things like, logistics facilities, but obviously know the pressures, and you don't have to spend much time in this region to understand how much land is at a premium, and how it has to be. You talked about China, how we have to do a better job planning all of that. And if Surrey's got a bank of developable commercial, industrial real estate, then I'd be thinking very much about what are the sectors that you want to concentrate on, not do that in some sort of unplanned first come, first serve way, but say, go out and figure out what are the sectors we want to service, what are those that are complementary to what we know is going to happen, which is pretty much a logistical revolution here in the Lower Mainland, and the businesses that might be attracted to be proximate to that, and use that land very smartly. Yep. Does that answer your question? I'm not sure. I don't want to get into the agricultural reserve or anything like that.
Well, we'd have to be here another half an hour for that conversation, right, Minister McKnight? You know too well. So I have one final question. 5 years from now, what measurable outcomes would tell you that today's announcement was successful?
Well, can we build it in 5 years, Peter? Yeah, well, let's hope we're cutting the ribbon on that facility. 50% increase in our container capacity. I hope that there be tens of thousands more people working in the port, in logistics, in moving merchandise and goods through this region. I would hope that there is infrastructure that's upgraded, that helps people lead better lives, in addition to that help us move all of this stuff more efficiently. I would hope that some of the performance indicators that ports measure themselves by will have improved significantly. And I would hope, perhaps most importantly, that mums and dads in this room can see their children fitting into an economy that offers a whole series of opportunities and a bright future.
Excellent. Thank you, Minister. Can I have a round of applause for... Thank you. Very, very good. So that's all the time we have for questions, but I'm really happy to say that Peter Exada, the President and CEO of the Vancouver Fraser Port Authority, has offered to do co-presenting sponsor remarks for us. And I'm glad your shoulder is okay, Peter. You're here. It's not your legs. You're all right.
Stole my thunder because I was going to say I was negotiating with the minister on something, and I came out
You know
on the
what?
wrong end of that, so.
We can just sit here and hold him captive until you get what you want.
So a couple of observations. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for being here, and thanks to the Surrey Board of Trade for bringing us together and for being such a strong partner of the Port Authority over the years. And I want to just particularly give Jocelyn props. Through her questions today, you can see that she was a former railway employee and a former Port Authority employee where she worked on the very project that we are announcing today. So it's been a team sport. So thank you, Jocelyn. I want to say thanks to Minister MacKinnon, obviously, for the important conversation that came after our announcement this morning. Really a game-changing strategy for the country and for the Port of Vancouver as we launch this Port of Vancouver Gateway strategy. And just, if I can just, I was really pleased I was reflecting on your upbringing, where you were born, et cetera. And I would say I've just been inspired by the leadership out of, I'm obviously in a privileged position to be able to talk to the minister on a regular basis. And we really do have tremendous leadership with vision right now in this country. And I think that is a big part of why we are going to be able to get this done, because it takes not just the alchemy of connecting the dots, it takes enthusiasm, it takes commitment, and it takes passion. And I see that and hear it in my conversations with the minister. So I just want to say thank you very much for your leadership. We are at a turning point. We know that Canada is poised to make some really significant changes to double non-U.S. Market exports over the next 10 years. It's the right commitment and the right time, and I appreciate the framing that the minister had about getting serious. It feels like there's a dose of PEI common sense into a lot of conversations that I'd say has been lacking for some time. Why are we getting serious? We're getting serious because trade is changing. We're getting serious because supply chains are shifting. And as Canada's largest and most cargo diverse port, we know that along with our partners at the Port of Vancouver, we're going to play an outsized role in making sure that Canada achieves the objectives that are being set out today. The announcement today of getting closer to Roberts Bank being, and I would say, first rock in the water is really tangible. A nation-building project that's going to unlock an additional $100 billion in annual trade capacity and create thousands of jobs in the supply chain. It's a nation-building project that's ready to go. It's a nation-building project with environmental assessment approvals and mutual benefit agreements with 27 First Nations. We have our construction partner to build a landmass and wharf just announced, and an MOU with Global Container Terminals in place. Those discussions are about a potential partnership for them to be the operator of the facility. All of these things to move us forward as expeditiously as possible in a logical way. Talk about momentum, and if this isn't the definition of getting serious, I don't know what is. What's more, the strategy is more than just about a container terminal at Roberts Bank. It's about building the trade network that our country needs for future, for across the commodities that we serve, not just containers. Minister talked about land, marine, bulk, and rail infrastructure. It's all needed if we're going to step up as a country and rise to the occasion. We're going to move more grain, minerals, forestry products, and energy products going forward. The Port of Vancouver Gateway strategy will unleash private sector investment, and importantly, it's going to help people and businesses from coast to coast achieve and go after that prosperity that the minister talked about, including right here in the city of Surrey and the unique role that you play. None of this happens alone. We're doing this in partnership with First Nations, governments, industry, local communities, and businesses like yours. Together, we are proud to be working for all Canadians. This is really time for Team Canada to step up. And as I said at the outset, Minister, the enthusiasm that I hear in your voice when I talk to you is something that's infectious, and we need to seize the moment. So thank you very much to the Surrey Board of Trade, and thank you very much for your announcement today.